A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for making time to join us in the highlights tonight.
Tonight, two IEBC commissioners who resigned months ago are back at the anniversary towers.
Our offices are still locked, so we were not able to get the office.
But which offices exactly?
IEBC does not have offices for former commissioners.
The prodigal commissioners that were not embraced and had their office locks changed.
Also tonight, Sports PS Kaberia put to task over unexplained expenditure of games funds.
They are different companies.
But different directors or same directors?
Parliament now starts probe into suspect use of 1.7 billion shillings during the World Under-18 Championships.
Ahead, some schools are still recovering from the wave of unrests and fires.
Lost around 17.6 million.
Not all students will return on opening day as schools face cash strains.
We have also done beds on credit that we are hoping we'll get railways to support us.
On my job tonight, Patrick Kiilu knows the weight and burden of unemployment. The university graduate who is a water vendor who dabbles as a painter.
I still have hope in life.
NTV Tonight with Trevor Ombija and Zeynab Ismail.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Our sign language interpreter tonight is Flora Atieno. We just have information that President Uhuru Kenyatta has already arrived at the White House in the United States, where is expected to meet President Donald Trump behind closed doors. We'll be giving you all the pictures and the details of that coming up in just a bit. The bilateral meeting between the two leaders, President Kenyatta and Trump, that is said to be closed off to the press. But before that, let's talk about the shenanigans at IEBC. And Consolata Minor Margaret Mwachanya, who resigned 4 months ago as IEBC commissioners, were today denied access to the IEBC offices as they tried to lay claim to their former positions.
The two found the doors to their offices firmly shut as IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati made it abundantly clear that they are no longer welcome. The two commissioners were also denied access to the Commission's chairman, NTV's Olive Barrows with that report.
IEBC Chairman Wafula Chebukati's actions on Monday did not leave much room for interpretation. They conveyed clearly that Consolata Nkatha Maina and Margaret Mwachanya, who resigned from the commission in April, are no longer welcome back.
Our offices are still locked, so we were not able to get the office, but we are going to issue a statement much later. Okay? Thank you.
And so it was that they beat a hasty retreat, Chebukati having made clear by refusing to accommodate them on his schedule that a return to the commission would be like everything else leading up to today's events. Acrimonious.
IEBC does not have offices for former commissioners. You cannot come here and say, I'm a former commissioner, give me space to work from here. They came on Friday and we were surprised to learn that they had retained some of the keys which they had not handed over and accessed their offices, but that has now been rectified.
While Chebukati has made his position clear on the matter, it remains to be seen what the executives is. President Uhuru Kenyatta is yet to initiate the process of replacing the commissioners 4 months after they resigned, and with Maina Mwachanya and Paul Kurgat, who they resigned alongside, presumably still receiving a pay package.
Immediately they resigned, I wrote to the Treasury, the PS, to stop their salaries. Now, I am not certain whether that was done. Up to now, I've not got a feedback on my letter, but I believe that Treasury acted on the recommendations from the Commission that they are no longer in office, and I hope they are not being paid.
Chebukati insists that the High Court ruling on the 10th of August did not allow or create room for the former commissioners to return to the IEBC.
What the judge said is that the procedure of the commissioners resigning was not clear, and I don't know whether the judge had all the information before her, because as far as the commissioners are concerned, in another case filed by activist Tom Tata, they saw affidavit saying they wrote to the president. That's all they are required to do.
Okia Omtata filed an application on Monday morning against former commissioners Nkatha, Mwachanya and Kurgat, seeking to restrain them from accessing the IEBC offices and to stop the IEBC from allowing the 3 former commissioners into their offices. Omtata filed the documents to show that the 3 commissioners had indeed resigned from the IEBC and even cleared with the commission on exit. Olive Barrows, NTV.
And away from IEBC, the Principal Secretary for Sports, Ambassador Kirimi Kaberia, was at pains to explain to the Parliamentary Accounts Committee how the ministry spent monies for the last year's IAAF World Under-18 Championship.
Well, the ministry is on the spot after Auditor General Edward Ouko raised audit queries. Kaberia was given 7 days to furnish the committee with detailed information on the expenditure.
I, Kirimi Peter Kaberia, do swear that the
Principal Secretary for Sports Ambassador Kirimi Kaberia facing the Parliamentary Accounts Committee to answer audit queries regarding expenditure during the 2017 IAAF World Under-18 Championship.
Some of the officers here that just joined us not long ago.
But you are the PS?
No, sir.
Then?
No, sir. I joined it 10 weeks to the event.
Who was the PS? Who was there when the process was starting and progressing?
Ambassador Kai.
Despite the attempts to pass the blame, the members of the committee took the PS to task. First up was the issue of direct procurement amounting to 350 million shillings, contrary to the Public Procurement Act.
I'm just worried that we are talking about sports and going to where money actually went to. There is very little sporty about the people who were paid.
People that you see listed here are people that are related to the services required during the event.
We can see funny companies. Chair would like to see the names behind these companies. The PS should furnish all the names of each company here. Who owns these companies?
There was also the curious case of Pewin Cabs, given a contract to offer taxi services at a cost of 23 million shillings above the market rate, and additionally given a contract to offer dry cleaning and laundry services to the tune of 30 million shillings.
We still had to go for NYS passes and still use GK vehicles on the same.
Pewin Cabs and Pewin Laundry are not the same company.
Oh, they are 2 different companies?
They are different companies.
But different directors or same directors?
They have different directors from what?
Is it still your testimony that Pewin Cabs and Pewin Dry Cleaners are totally different?
May I provide that answer in writing later?
Yes, you can, yeah.
Funds worth 3.3 million shillings were purchased, but the expenditure was not supported. Officials were supplied with funds, but the funds were not available for audit verification.
But my more fundamental question, PS, is that you say that it is standard practice to buy phones, I'm looking at the agreement we signed with the IAAF. Which provision requires you to buy phones?
Start the process of recovering all the funds that are with the public officers.
Let me help you.
Yes.
And this is now a directive of the committee, pending our report.
Yes.
Okay? That you go ahead and retrieve those funds, all of them.
After close to 4 hours of questioning by the PSC members and not convincing answers by the Principal Secretary, the PS grilling was paused.
We haven't actually completed the task.
Yes.
Yeah, that was before us. So we shall be inviting you at a future date.
I'm looking at my senior here and wondering, should I talk or should I just stop? We will do our best to make sure we provide everything you've asked for, and going forward we'll do everything possible to make sure we are in better condition.
Thank you very much.
The committee sittings will continue tomorrow.
At a future date.
And to a different scandal that seems to be brewing at the judiciary, it's once again on the spot after it emerged that investigators are zeroing in on the top officer accused of corruption. The judge, said to be sitting at the Supreme Court bench, is wanted for, among other crimes, abuse of office, illegally receiving money and favors.
Sources from within the DCI told Nation Media Group that the file is almost complete and may have been given a go-ahead by the DPP Nurdin Haji for prosecution in a case that is likely to be more explosive than that of former Judge Philip Tonoi.
Ken Mijungu examines these allegations against the recent and now consistent accusations leveled on officers of the judiciary.
These allegations and investigations that our sources say are highly secretive and have been going on for a while covertly will be the subject of a media statement by the judiciary. The said judge, who is serving member of the bench, has been under investigations over questionable transactions running into millions of shillings in the collapsed Imperial Bank. Among the charges the judge is likely to face include abuse of office, soliciting and receiving money from the bank officials and obtaining favors, stealing, willful failure to pay taxes, and receiving a personal loan of more than 10 million shillings from the collapsed bank. Further, the judge is accused of engaging in misconduct in furtherance of personal benefit. While the said judge will not be the first high-profile judiciary official to be investigated, it will be a huge blow to the judiciary, which has been on a mission to build public trust. In June, the Chief Justice cautioned the officers, saying he does not have space for the corrupt individuals within the judiciary. Over a week ago, at the Judges and Magistrates Colloquium, the Chief Justice cautioned his officers again after it emerged that the Kibera Law Court was allowing unprocedural payment of fines by suspects.
Instead of using the M-Pesa to collect revenue, they are refusing to do that, and they are asking the convicts to pay cash. The DCJ has called for a report on that, and we are going to deal with that family.
During the Beyond the Handshake conference held last week, ODM leader Raila Odinga singled out the judiciary as one of the institutions that have greatly been affected by corruption.
You have independent judicial commission. The judiciary is still fairly corrupt.
While the judiciary continues to work its way out of the mud hole of corruption, perhaps the most significant case of alleged corruption and judges misusing their powers by abusing their position at the expense of justice is the case of Justice Philip Tunoi. Tunoi was accused of taking a 200 million shilling bribe to rule in favor of former Nairobi Governor Dr. Evans Kidero. The case, however, did not proceed, even though a tribunal was convened to investigate the allegations after it emerged that Tunoi had retired, having achieved the age of retirement from the judiciary. To remove a judge or magistrate on any account, a tribunal has to be set up by the president to investigate the allegations and make recommendations. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
So like we mentioned earlier on, President Uhuru Kenyatta has arrived at the White House for a meeting with US President Donald Trump. Only the president's arrival was open to the press though, but the bilateral meeting between the two leaders and President Kenyatta's departure is closed to the press.
President Kenyatta witnessed the signing of two agreements earlier on today that will see the two US companies invest 23.9 billion shillings worth of projects in Kenya. He urged the US government to facilitate the operations of US businesses in Africa. The U.S. Overseas Private Investment Corporation and Kipeto Wind Energy Company signed documents to close a 23 billion shillings deal for financing the construction and operation of a 100-megawatt grid-connected wind power plant south of Nairobi. And of course, we'll be bringing you more details in regards to that meeting between President Uhuru Kenyatta and US President Donald Trump. Now, research firm Ipsos Synovate is ready for a legal battle should there be a case filed against it, following publication of recent research findings on graft. Trevor, you spoke to Tom Wolf on this, did you?
I did, Zeynab, and he's standing by the poll results, which placed Deputy President William Ruto among the most corrupt individuals, closely followed by Kirinyaga Governor Anne Waiguru. Ruto has since rubbished the poll results, saying it's fake news, and that's exactly where we started the conversation. I started by asking him his reaction to these sentiments by Deputy President William Ruto. Watch.
Wakimaliza mambo ya fake news na opinion poll ya ukora na ma headline ya kulipwa, wakuje tukutane na wao katika mambo ya maendeleo ya wananchi.
We're quite used to different reactions from people in both the public and the private sector. So we try to do our work the best we can. We know that no survey is perfect, whether in the crafting of the questions or the way our respondents are selected. We have very high standards which are international, and we try to uphold them.
When you say no survey is perfect, and you mentioned that you had a sample size of about 2,000 people responding to the question that you asked, scientifically speaking, is that sufficient considering there are more than 40 million Kenyans?
Sure. From a research point of view, it would be nice if every time we did one of these surveys we could interview 10,000, because then we could do much more subsample analysis. But the cost would be prohibitive.
Can you
the population
confidently
is
say
small.
that the 2,000 sample that you use is a true reflection of what Kenyans actually think?
Within the margin of error of plus or minus 2%, 2.2, we think it's a true reflection. If we get, say, 17% say this and 31% say that and so on, don't worship the numbers so precisely. There's a range of 2 or 3%. What's most important...
So it may not be a true reflection of what Kenyans
It's not an exactly 100% true, but we think it's true enough, close enough to the reality, so that we think it tells us the situation.
Who sponsored this particular poll, Tom?
Well, that's a management issue, but I can say that what we have released, because we do have certain clients who load questions, but for everything that we've released so far, this was paid for by the company.
By Ipsos itself. Yeah. So there was no external interference.
No.
It was not run by anybody else
No.
from outside trying to taint anybody's name in a particular way.
Now, I must say that we're happy, and I think other firms are, if a client comes, whether it's NTV or whether it's whatever political party, to do surveys for them. But my guess is, for clients of that nature, maybe not a news house, they would probably, and we know from the past, they would keep those results confidential and use them internally. For what we release to the public, unless we say openly that it was co-sponsored, they're all funded by Ipsos.
If this was funded by Ipsos, what was the thinking behind releasing it to the public then?
Well, the survey included quite a number of issues. This was the first section. And we have two categories of questions or topics. We have questions that we ask or try to ask every time about the state of the economy, people at the household level. As I mentioned, what people consider to be the most serious problem at the locality and the national level. The other one on Kenya's direction, how people perceive that. We try to ask about crime and victims of crime. Most times we didn't in this survey, we didn't have enough room. And some other issues we tend to track, like devolution. We used to have a couple of questions. So that's one category. Now we have another category of questions which are more topical, that relate to what you people in the media are giving a lot of attention to. And what you track in the media is often, not always, but often the result of what important people in public life, private, but especially public sector, what they raise as important issues.
Tom, there's a threat to sue Ipsos. Have you received any court papers?
I wouldn't know. That's a management would deal with
Are you
anything
ready
like
to
that.
defend yourselves in court, though?
Well, what's the alternative? I mean, if you get sued, you usually appear, don't you? I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what the company would do. You have to ask them.
But you believe you have the answer to the question that may come up? Do you have a solid defense based on the research that you did? Can you uphold it?
Oh, yes. I mean, we can defend the research. We belong to the Market Society Research Association of Kenya, MSRA. We also, I mean, Ipsos is an international company with branches in some 80 countries or so on. And all of us are put under scrutiny much more often than you would think. And they do quality control checks and so on. So I'm sure, as I said earlier, nobody's perfect, but I think we definitely fall within the boundaries of what is the highest standards of survey research in terms of methodology. So I personally wouldn't have any worries, but it depends what grounds people would have for bringing any such legal complaint.
So Tom Wolf will be among the panelists on tonight's Press Pass with Mark Masai coming up right after the show. As soon as we're done with the NTV Tonight, Mark Masai is up next, and Tom Wolf will be there as well to respond to more questions after the bulletin at 10 p.m.
All right, now and away from that onto some sad news where 3 people were this morning killed in a road accident in Kisumu after a passenger van they were traveling in overturned and rolled due to brake failure.
NTV's Oko Kusa has more.
4 passengers, among them a 2-year-old child, sustained serious injuries and are currently being treated at Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital, where doctors have described their condition as critical. Survivors told NTV that the driver appeared to have lost control of the vehicle when it started swerving from one side of the road to the other before landing in a ditch.
Tukifika ukweli ikalose brake ikafail, tukaona tu gari inaanza kumisbehave.
The matatu was going down Riat Hills on the Kisumu-Kakamega highway when the accident occurred.
Ilifika kwa roundabout, sasa hii ingeweza kukata kona, ikagonga pavement ya roundabout na ikaenda ikaruka, kichwa kagonga chini, ndio kaanza kuperingika mpaka pale penye ililala.
The driver of the ill-fated van is among those fighting for their lives at the hospital. Most of the passengers were traders and people reporting to work. Ouko Kusa, NTV.
Over the coast, 2 people died and 8 others were rescued when a boat they were traveling in capsized in Jomvu, that's in Mombasa. The bodies of 6-year-old Esther Suma and 38-year-old Jeffa Jindwa are yet to be recovered.
Esther Tsuma, a standard 1 pupil at Alpha Junior School, was returning home to prepare for 3rd term after spending the August break with relatives. Jeffa Jindwa was a security guard in Mombasa. Jomvu Member of Parliament Badi Twalib, who mourned with the families, said the boats operating in the area will be supplied with lifesaver jackets, adding that the search for the 2 bodies is still on. The victims were from Rabai in Kilifi County.
Nikaambia tungoje mpaka maji yaishe, kiwa kutafuta mtu tutamtafuta. Sema haya, hakuna shida. Basi nimekaa mpaka maji yakaisha. Ilipoisha nikaanza, watu wakaanza kutafuta, wakachukua madau wakaenda huko chini, wengine wakaenda huko juu. Wakirudi wanarudi kitupu. Hata dakika hii mtoto wangu sijamuona.
Jambo kama hili hatutaki litokee tena, na kwa maana hiyo mimi nikiwa mjumbe wa hapa tumekubaliana na viongozi wenzangu hapa kuwa ni lazima tutakuwa na security apparatus.
All right, let's take a short break in NTV tonight. We have a lot more coming up, including a story in business. The East African Portland cement is deep in the red and deep in debt. But how much does it need to get out of the hole?
The recovery plan on Business News.
Hawa mnaona wanazunguka kwa magazeti, wamejaza maneno porojo ya ufisadi kwa magazeti, wamejaza story headline kwa magazeti. Hawa watu mimi nataka niwaeleze, wakimalizana na kuandika headline na opinion poll ya bure, tukutane kwa wananchi.
Unaweza ambao wache siasa, lakini unapigwa na siasa, na ukipigwa na siasa lazima urudisha na nini? Na siasa.
My friends, William Ruto has never ever been involved in any form of corruption.
A very warm welcome back to the bulletin. Now, as schools open for the third term, learning institutions which were affected by student unrest and had their dormitories burnt are preparing alternative accommodation as they prepare for the arrival of students from tomorrow.
NTV's education reporter Sharon Baranga spent the day at Uhuru Secondary School, where the only dormitory went up in flames last term.
This hall, converted into a dormitory at Uhuru Secondary School in Nairobi, housed all students right from Form 1 to Form 4. Inside, it is a shell with gaping holes on the roof. There are a few beds scattered. Virtually everything got destroyed. The dormitory was burnt in July during a wave of student unrest witnessed in some counties. This is what has remained of a dormitory that used to house close to 400 students. According to the principal of the school, theirs was not a student unrest case.
There is one boy that had misbehaved the previous night, so the deputy had actually punished him to clean the cube. So when we went round in the morning and they had not done it, I told the deputy, why don't you tell that boy to do with that punishment? This is the boy who is a suspect of burning that door.
Students in this school will open for the third term in turns. Tomorrow, the institution will receive Form 4 students. On Wednesday, Form 1s will report to school. The school has contracted a few people to make beds for the students. They are lucky they received 400 mattresses and pillows from the county's woman representative.
We'll transfer boys who are learning in the other block to come to this side. So that will create 6 classrooms the other side that we can use as dorms, temporary dorms for the time being. But those ones, they will not just be temporary, but we'll finally renovate them into modern dorms.
The school estimates the value of property destroyed in July at close to 18 million shillings. Though the arson was traced to one student, parents will have to foot the bills of renovating dormitories. Sharon Baranga, NTV.
Residents of Dandora are accusing officers from the Kinyago police station of extrajudicial killing of a businessman who was among a group of 5 people shot dead at the Dandora dump site on Sunday.
The residents accuse the police of burning his business premises to cover up the incident. NTV's Charity Mwangi with the story.
The first group to arrive at the scene of the incident found the business premises of Jane Wamboi Njenga a smoking shell, following an allegedly intentional fire started by police officers minutes after they had shot dead 5 men inside the makeshift structure.
Kila mtu ajiuliza kuchoma walikuwa wachoma ilikuwa namna gani? Walikuwa wanaharibu evidence ama ilikuwa namna gani? Because wangewacha tu hiyo scene so that kama tuko na complaint tungekuja pia tulete watu wa either watu wa media ama watu wakuja waangalie.
Among those shot dead was Alex Githuku Njenga, who was running this establishment for a year now since his mother Wamboi fell sick.
Wezi kama wewe ni mwarifu wezi kuwa ukifanya uharifu na unaushikwi. Sasa huyo kijana hajawahi shikwa. Na si anapita barabarani akienda nyumbani akikuja kazini.
Kama hizo vitu waliweka kwa Facebook, walituma kwa Facebook kusema kwamba walipatikana hizi vitu zote, sisi tulikuwa tunaomba wangeshikwa wapelekwe ndani so that possibly watoe evidence zaidi, na kama kuna watu wengine wafanya nao kazi watoe, lakini sasa kuuliwa haisaidii.
Githuku has been described as a diligent hard worker who ran a scrap metal dealership and a food canteen here, a business that has served this community for more than 10 years.
Ndiye alikuwa tajiri wangu. Alex Githuku ndiye alikuwa tajiri wangu. Ndiye alikuwa ananipatia kazi hapa. Nilikuwa namchagulia plastic, namchagulia chuma, nikimwekea kwa store. Sasa
justice ifanyike. Mtu akiwa na makosa ashikwe apelekwe ndani. Huyu kijana anajulikana mahali hapa. Hajai kusikia rekodi yake ya kushikwa, hajai kusikia fingerprints zake zimechukuliwa, hajai kula ndani.
Wanakujanga kukunywa chai kwa hoteli. Sasa huwezi jua ni wa vijana aina gani, lakini yeye hakukuwa mbaya.
Efforts to get more information from the Buruburu police station were not successful as the OCPD, Geoffrey Mayek, referred us to the county commander, but not before he said that a dump site is not a hotel where one sells marijuana and illicit drinks and allows criminal gangs to hang around. The Buruburu OCPD also said that the police were acting in response to shooting from within the structure when they shot the group of 5 dead. The youth here are afraid of speaking out against what they term as a killer squad operating here in Dandora. They say that giving information about killings committed by police officers would easily turn them into targets. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
And away from Dandora, traders at Uhuru Market in Buruburu Makadara constituency have come out to condemn harassment and bad governance by the administration.
Well, the traders who last month lost millions of property to a fire claim that the administration plans to halt the reconstruction process while auctioning the available space to new traders against their will.
Over a month ago, Uhuru Market was razed to the ground, 288 stores burning to ashes, leaving them in the cold. The cause of fire that claimed property worth millions of shillings remains unknown, and efforts to reconstruct the market have encountered challenges. The traders accuse local administrators, led by the Deputy County Commissioner, of allocating the market to strangers.
Wakati tulisettle ndio tujenge, DC alikuja na akasema yeye amekuja ili asaidie kwa disaster management. Baadaye vibanda zilipojengwa ziliisha na tukaona watu wengine ambao hatukuwajua, wale waliingizwa kwa soko.
Mary Njoki, a trader, explains her predicament.
Nimejipata kwa hiyo mashaka. Hata mimi pia niliingizwa ndani na hawa kama nimeenda kuwatoa. Na kisa na sababu siku hiyo DC alifinyilia huyu Charles chini, nilipiga mayowe na nikauliza DC, kwa nini unadhurumu mtu kama anatetea wale wengine?
The traders claim that they face arrest at the market site, with the police harassing them under the guise of fighting criminal activities.
Wanatudhulumu kupeleka Jogoo police station, wakituhangaisha, wakituitaga Mongeke, na kuna wengine bado wako ndani.
Vijana walikuwa wamesikwa, ni vijana na wajua miaka mingi, hao sio vijana wa Mungiki, hao ni vijana wenye wanatufanyia kazi hapa.
The traders now want the county government of Nairobi to come to their rescue and restore peace. Doreen Majala, NTV.
All right, and at this point, we'll be taking a very short break here on NTV tonight. But when we come back, we'll be taking a look at that special segment on My Job.
Just before we do my job, let me do my job. Good evening, welcome to NTV Business. I'm Dan Mwangi. Now, East African Portland Cement urgently needs about 15 billion shillings in order to bring its operations to normalcy amid piling debt and a biting cash crunch that saw the company lay off 520 employees 2 weeks ago. How will it manage that? Victor Kiprop reports.
Once ranked as the region's largest cement manufacturer with operations in Kenya and Uganda, the East African Portland Cement Company EAPCC is now a shadow of its former self. Production has dropped by half, debts are piling up, and the cement manufacturer now says it needs between 10 and 15 billion shillings to stay afloat.
A cement company is not just like a small operation. We need that money to address the plant itself, the factory. We need that money to pay the creditors. We would like to reduce our debt to the minimum.
With a government bailout off the table and seemingly running out of options, the company's leadership is now banking on proceeds from selling a fraction of its 16,000-acre piece of land in Athi River. However, it appears this option may not be the easiest for the company to pursue, as part of the land has already been encroached by invaders, and a similar proposal to sell it in 2010 was shot down by Parliament.
We have to get permission from the shareholders, particularly consent from the government to sell that land. We have gone to the extent of preparing the necessary document for the cabinet to consider that, and we are waiting for them to give an okay.
The company also requires an additional 2 billion shillings to refurbish its manufacturing plant, which was last renovated about 22 years ago.
4.5 billion shillings will go to KCB, and there is an amount of 1 billion shillings to JICA. This is the Japanese International Corporation, which was borrowed some 18 years ago. There is a lot that we really need for this company, but we are saying to kick us off, to jumpstart the process, anything less than 10 billion shillings would actually be of no use for us.
Swiss cement maker Lafarge Holcim Group remains the APCC's largest shareholder at 41.8%, followed by the National Social Security Fund, which controls a 27% stake, and the National Treasury at 25.3%. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
If you are set to fly to Juba on Fly 540 and your flight got cancelled and you wondered why, that is because the airline no longer has landing rights in Juba. The airline is involved in a landing fees dispute with the South Sudanese authorities, with Juba's intelligence agency demanding payment of 2.7 million shillings in accumulated fees, although the Interior Ministry says the airline owes more than 12 million shillings. The dispute arose after an investigation into alleged fraud within the Civil Aviation Agency and some staff members suspended. 540 says while it has no problem settling the arrears, it questions the manner in which South Sudanese authorities are handling the matter. In the meantime, the airline has cancelled all flights to and from Juba. The Central Bank of Kenya has challenged banks to overhaul the internally procured algorithms that they use to determine the creditworthiness of customers and assign the interest rates to charge them when they borrow loans. CBK Governor Patrick Njoroge says some of the systems being used by banks are obsolete. Alex Mwangi reports.
Credit information sharing in the banking sector is now almost a decade old. Progress has been made in making customers more aware of the reason why they are charged a certain level of interest rate, but there is still some way to go for banks in as far as transparency is concerned.
But some of banks have been very slow in this. And an area where they've been slowest, in my view, is in the area of analytical models, in this case what we'd say credit scoring models, for customers in their lending practices. And they want to use their own in-house models, which they created, and nobody knows. It's a black box. Nobody knows what is in there. My view is they're obsolete already.
Since credit reference bureaus were introduced in 2010, usage of personal and institutional credit reports rose from less than 300,000 in 2010 to 4.4 million in 2017, with lending institutions dominating these requests. The number of licensed bureaus rose from 1 to 3. Third-party data providers increased from 0 to nearly 1,500 by the end of 2017.
We have all noticed regulatory arbitrage by some players who are not at all regulated. We at CIS Kenya stand ready and to play our role within the industry to ensure that the private sector cooperation is harnessed in drafting and implementation of a comprehensive legal credit sharing framework.
Among the reforms introduced is the Kenya Banking Sector Charter that tasks banks to use credit information as a benefit to the consumer.
The central bank has been actively pursuing mechanisms to see to it that banks share with members of the public all the banking charges. One of those involves having all that information on a website. Alex Mwangi, NTV.
Sanlam Kenya has issued a profit warning for the period ended December 2018, meaning that its net earnings will be 25% lower than a similar period in 2017 at the least. The company says that this is as a result of the general impact of slow economic growth and the interest rate caps, which have adversely affected non-bank financial services, investments and returns. Sanlam has also blamed its projected profit dip on the recent 100% impairment of financial assets covering corporate bonds that were invested in companies that are now in distress. The company says it is now working on a turnaround strategy that will focus on leadership change and management reorganization as well as operational efficiency. The Matatu Welfare Association and the Agrochemicals Association of Kenya are calling upon the government to suspend the implementation of the 16% VAT on fuel and agricultural pest control products, respectively, as well as engage the stakeholders to find the way forward.
Matatu Welfare Association and the Motorists Association of Kenya have jointly called off a planned strike over the 16% value-added tax on petroleum products, even as the industry braces itself for an increase in fuel prices as the tax takes effect in the next few days. The associations are now calling on the government to have a sit-down with the stakeholders before effecting the tax.
And as you know, petroleum products in a developing country plays a crucial role in as far as the economic growth is concerned, because it is used in really moving products, items, whatever it is, and it's a crucial ingredient towards growing an economy.
At the same time, stakeholders in the agricultural agrochemicals industry are appealing to the government to lift the 16% tax levied on pest control products, saying that it will make the situation worse for the sector that has experienced challenges, including severe drought and fall armyworm invasion.
The new VAT on pest control products, compounded with the expected increase in fuel, I think we've been told from the 1st of September, is going to significantly increase the cost of production.
The 16% tax will take effect 1st of September this year. Achieng Wimbley, NTV.
Business, myself are done. I'm done with my job for tonight, but my job comes with Trevor and Zeynab after this break. Good night.
Thanks for staying with NTV tonight. Before we get into the sporting action, education has been said to be the key to a better life and better opportunities. This is what Patrick Kilu had hoped for after he graduated in 2013. But life, as it turned out, handed him lemons.
He is now a casual worker hawking jerrycans in Nairobi's Eastleigh area. On this week's My Job segment, NTV's Mel Miendo narrates Patrick's struggles to make ends do.
Patrick Kilu stares blankly into the horizon, his thoughts quite distant from his current reality. Still, he knows he has to earn a living.
Yani lazima tu ufanye kitu juu life must continue. Lakini si ati ni kitu unaweza tegemea. Juu hata za nyingine bado nakufungiwa nyumba na unasema unafanya tu kazi hivi. Maisha ni ngumu.
Since 2016, Patrick has been hawking water in jerrycans in Eastleigh, Nairobi, especially during the dry season. This, for him, is the peak when there is more need.
Kwa kuuza maji saa hii, utapata kuna maji, so hakuna mwenye anauzia maji. So unaweza kaa like almost 2 weeks. Hakuna customer umepata, maji tu umeweka.
On average, Patrick pockets less than 1,000 shillings from hawking water, and this is when demand is high.
Nikiamka asubuhi kwa kuuza maji, simeenda kuuza maji, naweza uza mitungi 30, mkokoteni moja ya mitungi 30 ama 40, ukiuza mtungi moja ni 20, so unaweza pata 800 ama 600 hapo kwa siku.
But he doesn't take home all his earnings. He has to share his profits with others within the supply chain, leaving him with just a paltry amount as a sustenance.
Ukiwa na mkokoteni ya mitungi ya 40, ukiuza na 20 ni 800. Lakini hapo kuna mwenye mkokoteni anataka pesa yake ya mkokoteni. Kuna mwenye mitungi anataka bado pesa ya mitungi ya kukondisha mitungi. So ukitoanisha yenye unabaki nayo kwa mkuu unapata kama 300. Ukirudi sasa utoe fare yenye inakuliwa kwako, hadi hiyo siku huwezi lalisha kitu. Na bado unangoja kulipa nyumba. Maisha ni ngumu.
Patrick doubles up as a painter to supplement his little income, but this too, he says, is not a consistent source of income.
Ukikuja kupaka rangi nayo ni unaweza pata leo, kesho unaweza kosa. So unaweza kaa like almost unaweza pata kazi leo nimalize 2 months sijapata ingine. So kazi hapo kuna changamoto kubwa sana.
Patrick's life story, he says, is penned with the ink of unmet expectations. He graduated in 2013 with a Bachelor of Commerce degree from the Kenyatta University. He had high hopes for the future.
Lengo langu nikisoma nilikuwa nataka nikimaliza, mambo yangu ilikuwa ni ikuwe na accountant, nipate kazi nzuri. Juu hata wazazi wakinisomesha walikuwa nadhani nikimaliza mimi nitakuja kuwasaidia. Lakini kwa saa hii mambo yendi kwa. Juu hata wameuza mashamba yao. Mimi mtu mwenye amesoma kwa hiyo familia ni mimi mtu mwenye alikuwa anaangaliwa, lakini sasa naona mambo inanidimia.
Finding a job has been a disheartening task for him and many other educated young people.
Sasa huwezi jua shida ni gani katika hizo process ya kuapply, hata huwezi ambiwa kama qualify for that post. Shida iko mingi sana.
Still, Patrick keeps hope alive that as a graduate he will one day soar to greater heights.
Kwa maisha Mungu ndio huwa anaongoza. I still have hope. Juu kama kuna mtu anaweza kuwa na nafasi mahali anaweza endelea. So I still have hope in life.
Malmiendo, NTV.
Thank you so much, Mel Mende, for that report. I don't know, Trevor, if you were not a journalist in this life, what would you be?
I was actually thinking about it. You know, I've been so many things. I've been a casual laborer, I've been a conductor, all sorts of things.
Done all those?
Exactly. But I admire Patrick's zeal, despite the fact that it is actually hard to get jobs. He didn't decide to stay home, even having a degree.
Exactly.
He's
just
knocked
like
down by life, but he keeps standing up.
Definitely. Making a lemonade out of the lemons that life hands you.
Couldn't have put it any better. We're taking a short break on NTV tonight. Brano 12 is up next with the latest in the sporting world. You don't want to go too far.
Welcome to NTV Sport. My name is Brian Otual. Athletics Kenya has welcomed the establishment of a World Anti-Doping Agency approved blood testing laboratory for East Africa in Nairobi, declaring it is a big step in the anti-doping fight. The laboratory will be opened next month to test all doping cases in international track and field events in East African region. Doping cases have been in the rise in the country in the recent past, with youngster Kipyegon Bet the latest casualty.
What does the WADA court say about doping? First of all, is an individual's responsibility, and it says very clearly the person whose responsibility it is the person who takes or who injects whatever it is, who is found in the body. Unless that person tells us or we find out who gave him or her, then now we can go for it. But if you don't have any information, how do you go to somebody who you have no evidence about? You remember in 2014, we suspended one of the managers for 6 months to carry out investigations. We in Athletics Kenya, we did it. We carried out investigations. We did not find any proof.
A Nairobi County football team thrashed Elgeyo Marakwet 7-0 as the inaugural County Assembly's Sports Association games kicked off at the Kasarani Stadium. Meanwhile, defending champions Egypt bagged their second win in a row, and Cameroon beat Nigeria in the Under-20 Volleyball Africa Cup of Nations Championship. Joshua Makori reports.
The 2018 Under-20 Volleyball Africa Cup of Nations Championship Day 2 saw Cameroon beat Nigeria 3 sets to 1 of 17, 25, 25, 20, 25, 15 and 25-20. This as defending champions Egypt registered their second victory as they overcame DR Congo 3 sets to 0 of 25, 22, 25, 19 and 25, 17. The championship continues tomorrow with Kenya in action on Wednesday. The aftermath of Mashemeji Derby fans' trouble continues. A day after Sports Kenya banned AFC Leopards from using Kasarani Stadium, KPL says that its independent disciplinary and appeals committee will punish AFC Leopards for the unruly behavior of their fans.
When you follow the FIFA disciplinary code, the fines and sanctions that can be levied on a club, there's a deduction of points, there's a fine that can be levied on the club, they can be even relegated from the league if it continues to happen. So the IDCC, which is an independent committee, will have to make the decision based on what is presented by the prosecutor during the hearing.
The first ever County Assembly's Sports Association CASA Games was officially opened today by Deputy President William Ruto at Kasarani Stadium. Coached by former Kenyan international George Sunguti, Nairobi County football team kicked off their campaign on a high note, beating Elgeyo Marakwet 7-0.
Hata tunaomba Mungu pia tusaidie tournament hizi vikombe zibaki hapa Nairobi, because sisi ndio host na sisi ndio waanzilishi wa CASA.
In the battle for strength, Kakamega County Tug of War team proved too strong for Kilifi. 48 cyclists drawn from Britain, Australia and Kenya were cheered upon arrival at Treasury Square in Mvita constituency, Mombasa, after the 500-kilometer ride from Nairobi.
And Athletics Kenya has welcomed the establishment of a World Anti-Doping. I think we did that story to another story. The Gor Mahia may have won the Kenyan Premier League title, but there are still 6 matches to play in the rushed 2018 season, with the little matters of who finishes second and also who gets the drop. Coastal outfit Bandari are second on the log with 51 points after 28 games, enjoying a run of 5 wins on the trot. AFC are third on the log with 38 points from 28 games, with Mashemeji Derby loss ending 4-game winning run. So for Pakat struggling through a tough patch fourth with Ulinzi Stars completing the top 5. The relegation dogfight features Thika United, who are bottom on 20 points. After 2 games are Wazito as second last on 24 points, with Chemelil Sugar third from bottom on 28 points. The last 2 teams dropped to the National Super League, with the third last team playing in the promotion relegation playoff. And despite finishing 4th in the driftwood leg of the Stanbic National 7th circuit, Menengai Cream Homeboys still maintain an 11-point lead over second-placed Mwamba. Homeboys top with 81 points, courtesy of 15 points bagged in Mombasa, while Mwamba stays second with 70 points after securing 19 points at the coast for reaching the Driftwood 7th final. KCB remained third with 66 points, while Driftwood 7th champions Nakuru RFC now have 63 points in 4th. Kabra Sugar complete the top 5. The 7th circuit next docks in Kisumu for the Dallas 7th. That is the 5th leg of before concluding in Nairobi with the Christie 7th.
There is someone who just dropped a trophy.
And Gor Mahia stamped the authority in the local football scene by winning their 17th Kenyan Premier League title. The title win was made sweeter as it was a result of defeating arch rivals AFC Leopards 2-0 in the Mashemeji Derby. The highlights of that title win is NTV Sports Moment of the Weekend.
The winners of the 2018 Sportpesa Premier League, Gor Mahia!
Well, the Mashemeji Derby FC Leopards are blaming Gor Mahia, and the referees as well as Sportpesa and FKF are expected to issue a statement on the same, and we'll be following that up later tomorrow with FKF meeting tomorrow.
Well, thanks, Brian. That wraps it up for the sporting action. My name is Trevor Ombija. It's a pleasure having you with us. Special thanks.